Hi, this is Bonnie, and I have a new paper pad I'd like to share with you. And this one is called FrostFlight. And again, it's a 6x6 paper pad, 24 double-sided sheets, 24 designs, 2 of each, and it's 216 GSM. And this is from Fairy Hugs. And I'm going to go ahead and show you the paper so you can see what you're going to be getting inside. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a closer look for some of these too so you can see them. I think I'm going to go this way just so that we can get both pages on at the same time. And I didn't remember which one. Okay, remember which one I started with. There's a lot of variations in here. You can see how you can stamp on these or use them for your dies. But stamping, you can have a lot of ways to look at it in terms of mountains or grounding or any kind of things you want to do that way. And the colors are really pretty. They are like a purple, a green, but kind of like an aqua. This one's more like, I want to say a raspberry, a light pink, not really light, but like a raspberry. You can see the purples and the greens again, and then the yellow in this one. And each one of these has that subtle texture look to it, although there is no raised, and it's perfectly smooth to stamp on. There's no actual raised texture, it's just a look. And you can see all the different designs in here. These would work really good too for, because of the colors, they'll work really good for winter scenes. And actually these would look good, really pretty for even the spring scenes and water scenes. All kinds of different ways to use these. I really like this one that has a little bit of the swirls to it. It's really pretty. That would be pretty for snow. You can see how things could work that way too. I need to double check again. I didn't mark this off before I started to know where I stopped and started. We might see a repeat of some of the pages. I really love this green. Okay, well maybe not. Let's keep going here. I think I'm just going to go through the whole thing just in case. I don't want to miss anything. I don't think I have so far. Lots of designs. Okay, this is our beginning, I believe. Let's check. Yep. So we've gone through the entire package of at least one time, and then again it repeats itself for the rest of the book pad. So you get, like I said, 2 of each. Really cool, really pretty. So what I'm going to do for the second half of this video is I'm going to create a card with one of these pages. Okay, so I've decided which paper I'm going to use out of this paper pad to make a card to give you an illustration, and it's actually the first paper that was in the pad, worked out perfectly. So I'm going to be using this paper, and I'm going to show you some of the other things I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using Fairy Hugs Enchanted die, Magical Hollow, and that die, whoops, looks like this. This is the back side of it. It's pretty big. It fits on the paper, and this is currently in the store. And then I am going to be using 3 new brand new stamps, or 3 new items from the release. We're calling it the winter release. It's being released in October, and these are the 2 stamps I'm going to be using. This one is called Ollie, and it's a cute little owl. And then this is a sentiment called Smallest Things. And then the third thing I'm going to be using is a stencil, and the stencil is called Swirling Snow, and it'll be perfect for what I want to do for this card. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you I've already cut out, die cut the magical hollow that I want to use. And you could really turn this around any way that you want to. It is really technically like a tree that's growing in the ground, and you can do whatever way you want. But this is the way I am going to do it. Is I had considered turning it and putting a bow here, which you could do and make that a wreath. But when I put it all together, kind of like getting an idea, I decided to go keep it the regular way. And this is how we're going to set it up, just to give you an idea. So I always use the acetate, and I kind of like audition the stamps and the dies to get an idea of what I want to do before I actually commit to doing anything. And I could either put this underneath, but I think for this, and you could too, I want to show you, you can go ahead and just stamp this so that it goes underneath this die, and it looks great like that. You could totally do that. That's very simple. But I think I'm going to go ahead and stamp it on another piece of paper and hand cut it, because it is, if you look at it, this is really a relatively, let me put the white behind. This is really a relatively easy stamp to cut out once you stamp it. So that's the plan with that. And then the other plan I have is I am going to be using the stencil throughout the entire background. And I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything set up, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've decided to stay with a purple theme, and I'm trying to match up, if you can see this, the purpley color in the background. And I'm just going to start adding some of these colors. The first one I'm going to do is Shaded Lilac. It is the lightest color that I picked, and I am going to first of all just kind of test that out to see. I don't want it to be overpowering. I want it to be subtle. So let's see if that even works. And you see what I'm saying? That doesn't show up very much. So that tells me I'm going to try Dusty Concord. Because I usually try to go with the lightest first to see how it looks. And then I add a darker color to see if it'll pick up. Yeah, that's what I want. I want it to be subtle, but I want to be able to see it. So I'm going to go around, I think, the outside of the swirl, because I want it to look like it's continued from the top there, because if you notice the top, let me pull that back off. The top of it is a little bit darker, so I want to kind of continue that around like it really is swirling. So I'm trying to stay with that color. And then I'm going to come back in and see if the that lighter color might show up down below, because I don't want it to be too dark down below. Or I might have to go and pick up, I think Selvage Patina might work really good down there too. So I'm going to go ahead and try this light just one more time, even though I've got a little bit of that Dusty Concord already on my blending brush. It kind of blends in, I know it will. Which is a gradual thing from the one to the other, making a difference. Okay, let's take a look. Yeah, that's working out. I mean, I think that's working out great. I just want to see a little bit of the color back there. I don't want to take away from what the design is. Yeah, that's working. It just gives us a little bit more visual to the background. Not that it needed a lot. So that's what I decided. Shaded Lilac for the bottom, and then gradually changing it at the top I did with the Dusty Concord. So I think that's going to be good. Yeah, that kind of looks like swirling snow, just like the stencil says. So That's all set up for the background. The next thing I have to do is a little bit of stamping. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is stamp the owl on an extra piece of paper like I told you, because I am going to be cutting him out. So I decided to use the VersaFine Clear Acorn. I wanted him to be a little bit brown. I think he'll tie in really good. He could have been purple too, but the thing of it is stamping it with this, I might be able to color in a little bit of purple on him. He won't be, I gotta put this back down. I think that he'll be pretty good if I stamp him in the brown and then add a little bit of purple to him with a colored pencil, because he's not really super dark. But I think that'll look good, and it'll look good with the die cut I already did. All right, let's see how he's stamped. Super. He is a little bit dark, but I'll still be able to use that purple on him a little bit, I think. Especially in the white parts, I'll be able to add that purple. So I'll let him dry up a little bit, and then I'll color him and cut him out, and I'll show you how I will color him also. So the next thing I want to do is get the card back in here, and that's the direction I want it to be. And okay, I gotta make sure I have my die where I want it sitting, because the only thing that I have to stamp on this now will be the sentiment, and that will be pretty easy. Just a little bit of details, it just takes time. I'm gonna go ahead, I want to make sure this is in the right place. I'm going to have it that way. Pull up my sentiment background so I know where I want to put everything. So there's that. And the owl will be sitting down there. So that's how we'll do it. I think that works. I think the sentiment can come down. It works really good. I tried to match up how the sentiment is created, so that like how this little opening is like right here. So the owl looks like it's actually part of that sentiment too. I don't know. It's just how I think. Okay, so that's going to work. I'm going to go ahead and take the owl off. And I'm going to take that off and put this on to hold that down, and then get my sentiment on. Line it up. And then we will stamp that. Okay, so I have the sentiment all set up. I'm going to be using VersaFine Clear Nocturne for my sentiment. You can see that this is other than taking just a little bit of time, this card goes rather quickly. And the sentiment says, sometimes the smallest things take up the most room in your heart. And that looks really good, but I'm going to stamp it a second time. Okay, we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out a second. And the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and I think we're going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure I get this in the right place again, so I have the owl in the right place. But I think I'm going to go ahead and glue the die down because I think that it's ready. So I'm just going to be using my glue that I use It's the Cosmic Shimmer. Somebody asked me about what glue I used. I use a Cosmic Shimmer Specialist Acrylic Glue. And I think I'm just going to leave that plastic there so I know where to put this. So there's a lot of gluing on the back of this, and to put that down. So I am going to go ahead and glue this, put it down, and be right back. Okay, so I'm going to quickly color in this little owl, and I pulled out colors that I felt matched with the paper. And those colors are this is an aqua. I'm using Prismacolor pencils, and this is 992. And like I said, I am just going to go ahead and use colors that I found matched with the background paper. So, and lots of times if you stamp these directly, you don't have to color them in, or you always can. It doesn't really matter. I've not colored this before. I wasn't really sure how I was going to color him. I am using 1033 Mineral Orange for his beak. Give him a little bit of color. And then I'm going to use 934, which is a lavender. And that's going to be going around his eyebrows, if you want to call it that. It's not his eyebrows, but it's what goes around. And you know what? Because I'm going to be cutting this, I can even add a little bit of this purple so I don't have white really showing, and that won't really show either, but that will just help when I go to cut. You can see I missed a little piece right there. It's hard to see when I have the camera in front of me and coloring. There we go, because I'm not looking through the camera. Okay, and then I also pulled out a darker purple. It's 1008, and it's Parma Violet. And I am going to use that for the wing part. And like I said, this is going to help tie into the colors in the background, I think. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do the tail also. And then he has some, I'll show you a little bit closer, he has some really nice color in him. I'm not sure about the rest of it, just looking at how I want to tie that in. I think I'm going to still go with a lighter blue. And the lighter blue is lots of times a little bit harder because there's not as much teal in the Prismacolor. So I'm going to just go with, this one's called powder blue, and I probably should have sharpened it. And I think I'm just going to, so it softens that color a little bit. I should have sharpened it though. It looks a little bit too white to me. I think I need it a little bit darker. So I'm going to go with a non-photo blue, but because these little pieces are smaller, I want to sharpen my pencil very quickly, because a sharper tip helps when you want to get into smaller areas. So you can see there's a big difference there. So I'm going to go back over, even though I've got white sitting there, kind of like, it's not really white, it's a light blue. I'm just going to go over that a little bit. I'm not going to do anything else. And then I'm going to turn it slightly so I can make that curve a little bit easier so I can see it. So my owl is just going to be having a little bit of color. Just kind of simple. Not a whole lot of difficult. I'm just coloring over the white. I'm not doing anything special other than, you know, coloring over the white. And then that's pretty much what we're going to do. It's not going to be a really big deal. So I want to show you how easy it is to cut this out. because it really is. It's not hard. And because it doesn't, the only thing that has some details in it are the claws. Because even this, even the wing doesn't have very much detail on the outside. So it's pretty cool. And I am using a little bit harder cardstock. It's not real flimsy. It's a little bit more stiff. So it's a little bit more substantial. So even when I go to put it back on, it won't be a big deal. I'm going to cut this so this other excess is not in my way when I'm cutting. And that makes a difference sometimes. And you can see what I'm saying, how I added that little bit of purple. So now I don't have to cut every little bit out. See all that little detail? I don't need to cut it out because that purple helps so that I don't have to. I probably could have done something with the claws too, so I didn't have to do as much detail cutting, but I kind of like it. And it's not going to be hard because of how I do it. Hold on a second, I'll show you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come around. I'm not going in and out, in and out. I'm just going to cut straight across and straight across that claw. Okay? And then I'm going to come back up here to the side and back over to the tail. And then I'll show you how I do, not that, I mean, I think you can figure out how to do the cutting. Not that it's a big secret. All right, so then all I'm going to do is come back in here, and they look like little triangles. So I'm just cutting out those little triangles. And I'm cleaning that one edge up. Get that a little closer. You can see what I'm saying. Okay, so it's like I said, a little triangle. And also the big tip is your scissors. Because you can see how thin those scissors are. Let's see if I can get that. They're super thin. That makes all the difference in the world, and that they're sharp. But these are over 20 years old, and I've never had to get them sharpened. Thank you very much, I'm glad. But they just make all the difference in the world for cutting. Okay, and then we have this little, same thing. I'm just, like I said, I'm thinking of them like as triangles coming from one side and then the other. And then here's this one. And if the little bit of white on there bothers you too, like I said, you could always like color first and then cut. And then there's not as much white showing, but it doesn't bother me because of what it's up against. If it was up against black, I think it would really you'd really notice it, but it's not. So anyway, here's our card. I'll pull it back up just a little. Our card front. And this cute little owl is just going to sit right there. And he adds a little bit of color. It kind of ties in to the rest, I think. He looks kind of cute. Another thing is, if you ever think that what you're doing has too much color to it, this is what I do. And I am just going to add a little bit. You see, he seems a little bit brighter. He's got the right colors. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Chip Sapphire. You're going to say, oh no, that's dark. It is dark. But what I'm going to do, actually I'm going to use the same blending brush I used before. Just really lightly, okay? Really, really lightly, not heavy. I'm going to come to the side and I'm just going to lightly go over him. But I'm bringing the darkest color on the outside and lightly go over him. It just softens him a little bit. And so that it's not so bright white. And even that part I cut down there that you could see the white, it kind of gets covered up. You can see I'm not using a lot of ink. It's very, very light. So he is not as bright right now. I think that looks pretty good. He blends in a little bit better, I think. So how I put him on is I use double-sided foam tape. And I'm going to go ahead and do that, even though lots of times I will wait to put him on until I have him on my card, on the card base. But this is, I want to show you how that looks, how easy this is to do. This is double-sided foam tape. I don't put tons of tape on the back of anything that I put together. I just don't. I have found that it stays on fine and it mails fine if I mail it. So I've got 4 little pieces on there. But everybody does their own thing, and that's fine. I could have put one big, huge piece on, I guess. Okay, so I know that I want him sitting there, like I said, by that sentiment. And I want him, you know, like his claw sitting on that little edge there. And then he just sits there and he's all ready to go to sit on a card. Now, I'm going to get my stuff a little bit out of the way so we can continue on really fast without me picking it up. The next thing I like to do is, you've watched my videos, you know I like to distress the edges. And again, I'm going for this one, I'm going to go ahead and use the Chip Sapphire. And I'm just going to go around the outside. I just think it kind of grounds the card for me. And here's the thing too, you're going to notice like the edge, if it hits that die cut, it can also, you can also, if you really want to, go in, you could even do it before you put it on. You could actually distress the die cut and even get more depth from that. I didn't, but you can. I mean, even lightly, if I want to, I could go over this and give it a little bit of depth without doing anything, you know, that hurts the background because it's raised. But it blends in really well around the edges if it does get a little bit on the die cut. I mean, you can go one step further and you can come back in with a little bit of glitter on top of, you know, the different places if you want to, like, and some of the stencil that was in the background. You could put some glitter by using your glitter pins. But for the most part, this is it. This is just really simple and fun to make. All right, so that is our card using the new paper pad, and all I'll do is I have a 6x6 card base, and my little card will sit right on there, and we'll have a finished card. I hope you enjoyed that. It was really fun. And quick, really. Oh, I forgot to tell you, the color of the die cut is kind of like a chipboard color. So it's a gray, but it's more of a chipboard color, so that you know what I did use with that paper. So thanks so much for stopping by. I will have the items that I used for this card in the description below. See you again soon.